Dziękuję bardzo. Here I am back in Ochota, and right now I'm living in Muranov, but I used to live in Ochota, and I still don't know which neighborhood I like better. I mean, if I had to think about it, I think it's gonna be Muranov. I think Ochota is great, but Muranov is, I don't know. Maybe it's because it's new, maybe it's because it's something fresh. There's a lot of modern elements to it, whereas Ochota is old school. It's Stare Ochota, after all. But still, I'm coming back here to get a haircut, and it's still, it's still a place to return to, even though here in Warsaw, each neighborhood is like a self-contained city. You don't really need to kind of go out. And, honestly, like, it feels good to be back in Ochota, but I really like the neighborhood that me and Marina are living in now, Muranov. And there's lots of things about it I like. It's an awesome neighborhood. And in fact, I was thinking about this the other day, where, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, it's an ideal life. Like, it's a cool neighborhood. It has everything that I want. And then I started to think back when I was just moving to Warsaw, right? I was like stressing out. Am I gonna like Warsaw? Am I not gonna like Warsaw? And what I realized is that Warsaw, living here in Warsaw, has changed my fundamental understanding of like a city, right? It has changed to kind of what I expect from a city, because I've lived in many places. I've lived in Brazil, I've lived in Europe, I've lived in Eastern Europe, different parts of Europe. I've lived in North America as well, New York, other places. And the experience that I brought with me living in cities, and I'm like a big city guy, is a certain way. I have a certain way of looking at cities, okay? And living here in Warsaw has kind of turned that on its head. It really kind of changed my understanding, because it's like this cognitive dissonance, I wanted one thing when before I was moving to Warsaw. I was like, I gotta have it this way. And now I'm living, and it's a completely different way than I expected, and yet I'm as content and as satisfied as ever. And today I want to kind of talk about why that is. Like, I want to kind of share with you some of my thoughts, how living here has really spoiled me in many ways, and in many interesting ways. And so there's that world famous Biedronka. That was like the first Biedronka by our house when we lived in Ochota that we used to shop at all the time. Great place. But I gotta tell you guys a little secret. And that is the building where we used to live while we were living here in Ochota. Great neighborhood, completely different from where we are living now. But really cool place. The apartment was a bit small, that's why we had to move. Now the thing about that Biedronka over there is that I've been cheating on Biedronka lately, because I've been shopping in Carrefour lately in the past couple of weeks, and I just found the selection there a little better. Marina still shops at Biedronka, but I've kind of moved on just a little bit to Carrefour. We have a big Carrefour there in Muranov, very close, where you can find just about anything. Has bigger selection, more things. And so, Biedronka, I'm not leaving you just yet. I'm just kind of checking out something else, playing the field a little bit. I hope you don't get too upset. What's funny is that I don't think there a day goes by where I do not realize something new about the city where I'm living now, specifically Warsaw. It's a strange occurrence, because I am like I love to analyze things, right? That's something that I do. And lots of things I'm realizing about Warsaw, lots of great things. But a couple of things I realized recently is that, number one, I've lived in many cities. And in many cities, you really have like a couple of places that you should be living. For instance, I lived in Rio de Janeiro And you really have two areas where you should be living. You got the beach or you got downtown. You know, you got other neighborhoods. You got the beach, you got downtown. In New York City, you have Manhattan, right? Yeah, you can live in Brooklyn, Queens, but you know, if you're visiting New York, you want to stay close to Manhattan, because you know, you don't want to be staying in some residential area where there's nothing to do. Manhattan, or like northern Brooklyn, you know, Williamsburg, those areas. And you know, in many cities it's like that. In Eastern Europe, only the center, unless you got a really good reason to stay elsewhere. Pretty much only in the center, right? That's just the rules of the game over there. In LA, you want to stay only in certain areas, right? Like, there are well-known parts where you want to stay. There are places you do not want to go to. In San Diego, there are certain neighborhoods, right, that are they're just desirable, right? That's kind of where you want to live. And that pretty much sums up my thinking when it comes to cities, right? And I think a lot of people that have lived in the US, Americans, or even immigrants that were born elsewhere but grew up in the US, I think even Polish people that, you know, spend many years living in the US can understand me, because that's like this American mentality, American thinking, is that you gotta find your desirable, undesirable neighborhoods. And what made Warsaw interesting for me is that, and you know, I've been exploring it, you know, I've been going to different neighborhoods, and I really haven't found a neighborhood that I would say is undesirable. I really haven't. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, yeah, there are certain neighborhoods that I like better than others. That's just personal taste, it's subjective. But Warsaw has been completely different than pretty much any of the other cities I've lived in before. All the other cities have been very similar. In a way, you kind of, you know, you have this algorithm that works where you decide where to live. But here in Warsaw, very different. And I think that's for many reasons, actually. And one of the reasons is that, well, Warsaw as a city, it's very underrated. And I think one of the reasons it's underrated is because it doesn't have this big kind of recognizable thing about it, right? Like, you have Eiffel Tower in Paris, you got Times Square in New York, you have certain landmarks around it. Whereas in Warsaw, it's all about the details, right? Warsaw is all about the details. There's really depth to the city. There's true depth to the city that I really haven't seen much elsewhere. And what I mean by that is that you only begin to appreciate the city when you live in an area for an extended amount of time. Okay, like for instance, you know, when I initially moved to Ochota, I was like, man, I gotta live in the center. I gotta see action. I gotta see like modern buildings around it. But then I started to live here, and I realized there's a lot of value here in Ochota. There's a ton of value, and you know, I started to come to the center less and less. Okay, that was kind of the natural evolvement of things. And same thing is happening now in Muranov. Like, I moved to Muranov. My initial impression was like, man, I'm gonna miss Ochota. I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know, I'll need to get used to a brand new neighborhood, etc., etc. But once I move there, like, I wake up every morning and I think to myself, man, this is such a cool neighborhood. And honestly, like, I don't really know like what's cool about it. Like, there's not something specific that's cool about it. It's everything together, right? Everything together, all the little details make it cool. And honestly, I can probably say that I do not regret the move at all. Like, I'm really happy in Muranov. And given the choice, if I was moving to Warsaw for the first time, given the choice between Muranov or Ochota, I would probably pick Muranov. It's just, I don't know, it's just it has a different vibe. It just kind of jives with kind of what I want better. And I think Marina also mentioned the same thing. She also agrees with that. Obviously, it's a very subjective thing. You know, some people like that, some people like this, but it's a cool neighborhood, and it's hard to pinpoint what makes it cool. It's kind of like, you know, it's not a certain architecture, it's not a certain vibe, it's not a certain thing. Well, yeah, it's a little bit of a vibe, but it's a lot of little things around it. You know, the little things, when added up together, when you take it all together, it makes the neighborhood really, really pleasant to live in. And so while in many other cities, it's all about a landmark. For instance, I gotta live near the beach. I gotta live in the center. I gotta live, near the river. I gotta live with views of some views. It's about one thing typically. Here in Warsaw, it's not about a landmark. It's just about a neighborhood that has a million little things that work in your favor, that improve your quality of life. And they create this neighborhood that's so hard to explain, but when taken all together, it's just a complete pleasure, a complete joy to live in. And so as a result, kind of the traditional way of thinking about a city, right? The landmarks, being next to one of them, being next to this landmark, being next to that landmark, it doesn't really fit in here, because here you gotta think in a brand new way.
Muzeum Powstania Warszawy.
So now I'm back in Muranov and I'm going to Arcadia shopping center because I have these AirPods and I lost one of them. I don't know how I lost it, but I lost it after a gym session, and I still do not know how I lost it. But anyway, we're gonna go inside and see if there's a store that can sell me, hopefully an original new AirPod. And this shopping center is kind of like Warsaw, is that every time you come in, you discover something new about it. It's not a place you can get to know on the first couple of visits. Really, really amazing shopping center here. Alright, so they couldn't do it at the store. They sent me to one of their service centers. And the address is Pułaska 2, and it's near the Park Łazienki. So let's go over there real quick, see if they can solve it for me. Look at this place, they got a park here, people are chilling, sunbathing. This is a mall. I've never seen this in Eastern Europe. This is kind of like a New York thing. I can see that in Manhattan somewhere. Look at that, amazing. Alright, so here I am in Łazienki neighborhood, and now I gotta go find this store and see if they can help me out. And let's see where it is. It's Plac Uni Shopping. Oh, it's at another shopping center, it looks like. Alright, let's go and check it out. And actually I remember this neighborhood. This is Mokotów. And I was exploring this neighborhood like some months ago when I first arrived to Warsaw. I was walking around, getting the feel for the city, trying to understand it. And this is also a great neighborhood. This is also a very, very cool neighborhood, in fact. But that's the shopping center. Never been here before. Gonna be interesting to check it out. Cool shopping center, look at that. It's got a see-through ceiling there. Very nice, gets a lot of natural light. Very, very cool. And they got a downstairs area. I think that's the store I need to go to, if I'm not mistaken. So let's go over there. That's the store I need to go to. Let's see if they can fix it. Alright, waiting for my thing to be fixed, for my AirPod to be replaced. Alright, I got my second AirPods, and now I feel complete again, because I literally cannot live without these things. I use them all the time. Definitely a must-have thing for me. And now I gotta head back to Muranov. But before I do that, I want to tell you the other thing that I learned, that I realized from living here in Warsaw, is that I am spoiled. Like, Warsaw has made me a little spoiled, because, and here's the interesting thing, is that I realized that if I had to move to a different city, all of the things that I'm enjoying here, all of the nice things that come with the neighborhood, the, you know, kind of everything, right? All the nice things that I wake up in the morning, you know, just chilling and thinking like how great it is, like how cool it is. All of that stuff is gonna cost me money, right? All of that stuff is gonna be extra. And all of that stuff, you know, I simply cannot take for granted, because not only will I not have access to these things, right, in a different place. It could be like, you know, let's say I go to Portugal. Well, Portugal doesn't have this high quality level of apartments, but if they did, that apartment is gonna be like, you know, double the price, right? It's gonna be expensive. If I go to, you know, another country, right? I lived in a lot of other countries. The level that I have here, I will have to pay a lot of money to achieve the same results. I know that, like if I go to New York, you know, the kind of situation I have here, it's gonna cost me a lot of money in New York, right? If I take what I have here, it's gonna cost me good money in New York. And so, you know, the kind of living situation I have here, it definitely spoiled me. And I realize, like, I really do understand that if I had to switch cities, if we, myself and Marina and myself move somewhere else, and I'm not saying we're gonna move, I'm saying like if it's possible, you know, who knows? I don't think Warsaw is gonna be our last city on this planet. I know that everything that I have here, I will not have access to, or I will have to pay a lot of money, and I will have to pay extra money to kind of enjoy it. But that's just the reality of things, and I'm glad I realized that, because I get to appreciate it a lot more, right? Like, I'm not taking it for granted, because I know, like in Ukraine, this kind of lifestyle, it's gonna be like double or triple the price, right? And in other countries, you know, you might not even have access to this kind of lifestyle. You're gonna have something else for sure, but to have this, you know, combination of factors is gonna be very, very difficult. And that's just how it is. That's what I realized from living here. I'm spoiled. Really, not only do you have to look at things in a different way, you have to look at Warsaw in a very, very different way than kind of what you're used to when you're evaluating cities to move to. But get ready to be spoiled in terms of your quality of life, in terms of your bang for buck here. And get ready to understand that that's definitely not going to be the case in other cities, other countries around the world. Anyway, I gotta head back to Muranov, gotta head back home. Now, before I go, I'm gonna be making a big trip later this week. It's gonna be a very interesting trip. There's gonna be another interesting video regarding that trip. I don't want to give anything away, but it's gonna be a very unique trip and kind of a unique experience. And so, look forward to that. And in any case, I will talk to you guys in the next video. So, I was walking around. I gotta live by a certain landmark, whether it's it's gonna cost me a lot of money in New York, right? If I take what I have here, it's gonna cost me